Hello, and welcome to the NOTstalgia podcast.
A podcast where we discuss the retelling or continuation of pop culture favorites as seen through a queer and feminist lens.
My name is Eric Lefebvre.
And my name is Jessica Tercero.
And this week, it's Christmas week, and we watch Jingle All The Way.
Oh my God.
The absolutely completely unknown for good reason sequel, Jingle All The Way 2, starring Larry the Cable Guy, produced by WWE.
Thank you, Danny, for letting us know that exists. I feel like we got called out by our editor and was just like, actually, this exists, so you should absolutely do it.
Yeah.
And
do your homework.
Wow. Yeah.
I also like that he calls him Lawrence the Cable Guy.
The Cable Man. It's not Cable.
Cable Man. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Lawrence
Danny
the
calls
Cable
him
Man.
Lawrence the Cable Man.
Yeah. Incredible. Unlike the movie, that name is fantastic.
It really is. Truly.
So yeah, Jingle All The Way. I remember seeing this when I was a kid. To some degree, I do remember it, but I haven't seen it in so long. So watching it was fun. It really did kick up a ton of nostalgia. Speaking of our podcast, ding, ding, ding. Just in regards to like them being at a mall in 1995 or 96 or whatever.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
All of it. The colors, the look, the storefronts. I'm just like, oh no, this is the Northridge Mall in Salinas, California. I can't do this. So it was a lot. I mean, in a cool, fun way for me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot to say about it. I know you do too. What is your history with the movie? Do you have one?
I mean, I totally watched it like a couple of times, I think, and like anytime anybody like remembers, oh, you fucking remember that movie? Oh my God, it was so good. And I was like, oh, like I remember it being stupid and ridiculous and like just Turbo Man. Okay, cool. But like, I didn't remember a lot about it, like other than like hilarity ensues. And whoa, yeah, I have a lot to say about it.
I also didn't realize how much this movie said ACAB.
Yeah, right.
This movie straight up said "fuck the cops"
and like blow them up, right? Like
in a lot of different moments too. Was very just like "fuck you" if you're a cop, and I was like, oh, this movie. All right. I love it. I mean, I was so about it because at every moment the cops are silly. They're unqualified. They're bad. They're terrible. The cops are terrible all the time. And I was like, yeah, amazing.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about the cop real quick before we get into it, did you know that Officer Hemmel was originally supposed to be a woman? But then the producers and director were like, they wanted somebody, quote, who could pull up next to Arnold and tell him to pull over, and he pulls over. So insinuating
they got that dinky guy?
Insinuating that he would listen to that dinky guy rather than a woman in that role, and furthering the fact that character is misogynistic and the patriarchy of this world. So
100%. I mean, this movie, yeah. Should we just go? I feel like we're already starting.
Let's just go. Like,
let's dive.
Let's do it. Let's dive.
We're at the edge of the diving board. Why don't we just jump? It's Christmas time in a very 1996 Minneapolis where Howard Langston finds himself too busy with business to be with his family. After missing nearly every important moment in his son Jamie's life, he again drops the ball and forgets to buy him the one Christmas present he wants this year, a Turbo Man action figure. But oh no, it's the hottest kids' toy on the market this year and it's sold out everywhere.
Howard runs into fellow forgetful father Myron Larrabee, who is also looking for a Turbo Man. Rather than team up, these two actual grown-ups participate in a very mature competition to prove their manhood by getting their kid the toy. In Howard's absence, creepy neighbor guy tries to swoop in on Howard's wife, but Howard is too busy trying to redeem his dad points on his quest to care. The quest takes him everywhere, from a radio station to a black market toy warehouse, and has him blowing up cops, breaking and entering, and punching a reindeer in the face. Boo! Then he starts feeling bad, and suddenly he's Turbo Man? Happy holidays! The end. That was it.
That's the story.
It was very jarring, like that ending.
Oh, it was super jarring, yeah. Also, I mean, before we just get all the way into the themes, surface level, face value, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bad actor. We know this. We see this. We hear this. The famous Republican Arnold is a bad actor.
The governator.
The old governor of California. And on top of that, I also love that his accent, I mean, in most things, it's never really commented upon. But I also love that in the end, he is Turbo Man with this big helmet, and it's like very clearly Arnold. And he's got this like thick ass accent on, just like Jamie, the toy, or like whatever. And then he's like, man, I just wish that my dad could be here. He's like, what do you mean, little boy? And it's like he's the only person with that accent. And he's just like, my dad just like misses everything. And he takes off the helmet. He's like, it's me. It's like, it was you the whole time. Like, yeah. Do you not hear him say a single word?
Yeah.
It was incredible. Incredible.
I also really loved that this is the Terminator and Anakin Skywalker.
I know.
So it's like, I mean, it tracks, right? Like, yeah. I thought that was fun. I did not realize it was the same kid that played Anakin, and I was just like, what? What? That's so cool.
Now that's what I call turbo, or it's like, now this is turbo time or whatever. You can do a mashup.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's called a collab, everybody. Get into it.
You know why he turns into Darth Vader eventually? Because he didn't get the Turbo Man toy.
It's true.
Right? Because,
yeah.
Okay. A lot of movies love to use this, and sometimes I love it. And sometimes I fucking hate it. And I fucking hated it in this movie where everybody's like, well, I am the way I am because I didn't get this toy back, when I was 12 years old and it had the big action grip and did a thing and I was not cool. And that's when my life started going to hell because you didn't get this exact toy when you were 12 years old. And so I felt like putting okay, this movie is about capitalism and it's about
100%.
It's about the violence that exists within capitalism, which I want to talk about. But they're going so far as to shame, the kids are shamed for not having the toy. The fathers are shamed for not having the toy for their children. And on all levels, even if this specific product is not for you in terms of age range or whatever, you are still shamed for not knowing about it or for not having it or for not, keeping up with the Joneses or whatever. Right. Yeah. And then later on too, we see the boys hanging out while Mom and Creepo are doing cookies or doing something, right? And they're fighting over this toy and being super, super violent. And then there's the Santa gang that's preying on kids, that's trying to make money. And this whole time, Arnold is assaulting a toddler, trying to get this Turbo Man doll. And there's so much more violence in this movie than I realized or even thought existed in this world. And it's just it stems from both consumerism and the struggle to get things and to have and classism, all of these things, right? And also from patriarchy and toxic masculinity and all of that, which is alive and very, very well in this 1996 Minneapolis, right? And so you see the little boy, right? Where you see him just try to be vulnerable and open up and talk to his dad about his feelings, and his dad just dismisses him, right? And then what's his response? His response is to yell and scream and, raise his voice to do this, because the only way that men are going to listen or anybody is going to listen in this is through an act of violence, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, I have a big ass take of this movie, which makes me love it. Unequivocally, I think it's incredible. I think this movie is anti-capitalist. Just in general, in its themes, in the way that it portrays consumerism in the holidays and what that means. You have a main character who cares more about money than his family. That's what the whole opening scene is about. Thank you, valued customer. Thank you, valued customer. He gets his wife confused for a big air quotes valued customer. So he is embodying this idea of sales and consumerism and capital. So then that's causing him to miss all of these things. And he still doesn't see that the thing that he's missing is just being present. And it's not the toy, but instead drives himself into this mad, wacky, zany, robust world that is consumerist America during Christmas over this one toy, and shows all of the bad things that this bad man will do to get whatever it is that he needs. And in the end, none of it matters because the kid gives the toy away because the one thing he wanted had nothing to do with capitalism. And on top of that, the whole time this movie's saying, fuck the cops, fuck the cops, fuck the cops. You know what I mean? Like the whole time it's like, oh yeah, this guy's bad and he's doing bad shit in the name of capitalism because all he knows is capital. All he knows is money. All he loves and cares about is money. Nothing else matters. And then you also have Phil Hartman, the neighbor. That's the actor. I forget his name, who would be the prototypical good dad who's like supposed to be like the good one and like whatever. He did the right thing. He did get the toy. He did plan out and he's the good capitalist consumer, but he's still a big piece of shit creep. So even the best ones under capitalism are still toxic. They're still bad and exhibit traits of badness.
Okay. I love that take. And I wish that I thought that they were that smart with this.
I think they were though. I do. I truly think it. I do think it. It's so wild. And I know it's crazy because then they accentuate. I mean, this movie's a cartoon. With all of its violence, like you did highlight the violence, it is a cartoon of a movie, which just adds to the levels of it, of it being like zany or whatever. But the level of intent that went behind highlighting how bad the cops were for no reason, at a time, especially too, when most blockbusters are like quietly pro cop, this movie at every interaction with the police is like, fuck you, like fuck off. You know what I mean? So like that was intentional. There's the intent there. It just that's my big takeaway. I mean, obviously that's discounting all of the misogynistic aspects within that, which I guess you could tie back to the overarching theme that capitalism perpetuates that kind of action, but not really to that degree. So like I'm kind of leaving that out of here. But I do think that this movie is intentionally anti-capitalist. Is that crazy? Is that crazy?
I think it's a great take. And I love that. I love that idea. I just can't I can't believe it all the way, but I can meet you like 95% of the way.
Can you believe it, Jingle? If you can't believe it all the way, can you believe it, Jingle? Just a little.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Let me throw up
Isn't there
all of
a
that.
point where where the Dadinator lets Sin Dad get, that's who he is in my notes. It's Sin Dad, not Sinbad. Fight me. But anyways, so there's like a part where like, he's going to get arrested and he leaves him for the cops to like get arrested or whatever.
Yeah.
Was that?
Uh-huh.
So like, cause like, okay, so I would like to believe that this movie is anti-cop, but what I think this movie really is pro white people because like
he does leave him to get arrested, and in the end Sinbad does get arrested, and there is no real follow-up except for when he's in handcuffs he does get the Turbo Man doll. But what does that mean?
Yeah, so he's caught by the cops like twice, I think, and the whole time Arnold is like, oh, I'm a white man here, I can get out of this. And so that's the take that I was getting from that. So I was like, this movie isn't so much pro like anti-cop as it is like anti-cop calling out white people on these harmless crimes, right? Because it's like it's always kind of framed as like but officer, I'm just trying to get to my son's game, you know, like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But because the dad embodies capitalism itself, he embodies the badness of everything that's wrong here. Even though he is our hero, he's not good. He's not likable at all, really. He's doing the wrong thing all the time, always bad, always for the wrong reasons. And it's not until the end that he realizes, like, I just need to be present. Because I'm a present for the present, aka a gift for now. Thank you, Jenny Slate. Am I right? Like, that's the whole thing. But even in these moments where he's like, I'm going to be white and just let the black person get arrested and scoot off, I'm like, well, that's capitalism. Because if he's embodying what it means to be a capitalist, he's doing everything that a white capitalist would do in this environment. He would never stand up for his friend. He would just leave him, which he does several times.
Okay. Okay, yeah. If he is the living embodiment of capitalism, then I'm down with that.
And this scene makes no sense why it's in here with this big exception. When he's Turbo Man, he flies through a black family's apartment, destroying their holiday meal for no other reason. No reason. There's literally no reason for that to happen. And it's very specifically a black family. Mm-hmm. He is the embodiment of capitalism, destroying the holiday season with expectation for consumerism.
Well, and
boom.
Like, to take that a little bit further, like, they're not participating in consumerism or in the holiday, right? So, or in these big giant festivities or whatever, right?
They're just at home.
It's literally right out of their fucking window. They could just peer out and look at the fucking parade, and instead they're like, I choose not to participate in this. This doesn't,
and he fucking destroys their home for no reason, because he's the embodiment of capitalism, and he is slamming consumerist ideology under capitalism in their face to the point where it destroys their holiday. It literally destroys their home. It destroys their family.
I'm on board. I'm super on board. Okay,
it's crazy because there are so many of these moments. And
you got me, babe.
And I love it. And there's another one too, because this movie, for the most part, is kind of well written. Am I going to take that back? No, I don't think so. It's kind of well written. Like, there's a lot of intent.
Yes, there is, and a lot of that is because like they literally the whole time, right up until they had to like send it to the movie theaters, were doing like test and adjust, right? So they had test audience after test audience after test audience, and like Chris, what's his last name? Columbus, whatever. When something didn't land the way that he wanted it to in the test audience, he tweaked it. And he tweaked things. And he tweaked it until, like, literally it was exactly what he wanted up until the very end. And I would like to see more of that more often.
Yeah, listening, well, like being intentional, being very critically intentional. Like, these are the choices I'm making. If they don't work, I want to make a different choice. And speaking of choices, I do want to point out another thing that lends credence to this idea of like not only well written, but the idea of just because this is the hero doesn't mean it's necessarily good. Just because this is the thing that we're expected to think is good doesn't necessarily mean it's good. So there's this whole running joke that everyone hates Booster, right? Booster is the pink fuzzy sidekick who's like cute and fun and lovable, and everyone's trying to sell Booster, but nobody wants to buy Booster. Everyone's like, fuck Booster. Like, get that out of our face. We want Turbo Man. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Cute looking thing, right? Pink, fuzzy. Whoa. Pink and fuzzy, kind of unassuming, cute sidekick. The first time Booster has any lines is when we go backstage before he goes onto the parade. And the first thing that this character says, even though it's an actor playing this fake monster, is a racist joke. The first line is the exact opposite of what we're being sold throughout the movie. They're trying to sell us Booster constantly. Buy Booster. Booster's just as good. You should buy this. Underneath that is the insidious aspect of this bad thing in this cute thing. And so then he puts on the cute helmet, and we know that Booster is inherently bad. We believe it. And then later, when he falls down, all the kids start kicking him and stuff, and they're like, fuck you, Booster, we hate you. And I'm like, this is reiterating the concept of like, I in my opinion, not being persuaded into the concepts of consumerism and capitalism, right? Like, just because it looks pretty and looks good does not mean it is good generally. And the last time we see Booster, he's getting beat up by kids, which is, we knew this character was bad, and that's the last time we see him. Super inconsequential, doesn't really mean anything, but I think these small moments add kind of credence to this relatively well articulated narrative about anti-capitalism. Is this crazy? I feel I feel so wild. I feel nuts.
I think that's all super great and super smart, because that's completely different how I took that part. Like, I took this film to also be very anti-gay because
Let's talk.
Okay, so first thing, because There's a moment where like, okay, so Arnold Schwarzenegger is like going around and he's like, I will do anything for this toy. I will do anything. And then like Santa comes and he's like, hey, come over here. He's like, sit on your lap. I don't think so. I will do anything for this toy, but I will not. Right? He's like very fucking adamant about that. And so it's like, I took this as a very patriarchal, and you took this as capitalism. And I love that we have these two separate takes. So for me, that fit within my read of this, where it's very pro patriarchy and all of this, because there isn't room for gay men in like this type of misogynist, patriarchal world that they're trying to exist, or they're trying to, and I was like, okay, cool. That's like, or not cool. That is what, like, that's the one time where they're just like, yeah, it's, because they're also talking about like, you can't have male friends in this, like, which like men can't be friends. You always have to be alpha or beta, right? So that sort of thing, which I'll get into later. So I was like, okay, you can't be friends. So of course you can't love each other, right? You can't be intimate with each other emotionally or physically. And so then with the whole booster part, right? It was like, okay, cool. This is a pink furry bear, right? And nobody likes him. And they're gonna, like, these children are beating him up, right? Because like these types of anti-gay narratives are like just so strewn throughout like 1996 patriarchal capitalism ideals. And so it's just like, okay, like, this sucks.
Well, because to me also that line was bad, but in my head I was like, oh, well, this guy is probably homophobic also because he's a silly, like systemically masculine piece of shit who is obviously racist and obviously bad. Like he's the embodiment of all of these bad things and is not learning his lesson through any of it. So for him to say like, I'm not sitting on your lap because that's gay and I don't want to be gay or whatever, I'm like, oh, of course he's homophobic too. So for me, it like just clicked in line because I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. He's a bad person. So of course he would feel this way. And then what also is like, they didn't really linger on it too much because I feel like a lot of times in a movie, especially a movie like in the 90s or 80s or whatever, if they're going to throw in it like a gay joke or make queerness the butt of the joke in any way, like we've seen previously in other movies, it's going to come up more than once. It's going to come up regularly. And I think that if that had been the intent, I think when we got to the character or the actor who's playing Booster, I think the joke would have been a gay joke or an anti-queer joke and not just a racist joke. Because the racist joke kind of comes out of nowhere. It's so inconsequential. It means nothing apart from it just being this bad thing that we see as bad. And this is a bad guy. He's like kind of gross, smoking a cigarette, real raspy, like, here's my anti-Asian rhetoric or whatever. And you're like, oh, whoa, this is a bad guy. I feel like if they were intentionally trying to do like the we hate gay people, we hate queer people, he would have said some real off the cuff like, and the joke would have been like, maybe a hard F word, and then he puts on the fuzzy pink hat, and it would have been like, oh, see the juxtaposition of like this thing. He's a very masculine, male presenting cis person, assumedly putting on this very feminine looking thing. Isn't that funny that he's homophobic? Like that I feel like that would have been the thing. I mean, I just it's Jess, I need to point out how weird it is that this is where I'm coming from. Like, before we started, I did not expect this. It kind of like, I reread my notes real quick and it kind of just clicked in that I was like, oh, that's exactly what's happening. This is what this movie is. And I'm on this journey with you in real time, just in this very same way. What a wild time. I love this movie.
I know. Okay. One of the things that I like the best about our podcast is like sitting here and having these kinds of discussions and then being like, you know, like I had an idea and then it's like, oh shit, the more that we talk, like the more things start to like click in. And especially like hearing like the things that you bring up and then I'm like, oh, wait, hold on, you know? And so, yeah, like, I mean, I agree with you. I think that this is great. And I think that you should write this for our pod blog. Whoa.
Maybe I should. Well, because, and even the more I think about it, there's so many more points. Like, even in the parade, when all of these IPs are like walking in their like costumes, and you're getting like Madeline and Crayola and what have you. And Gumby, you're getting all of the it things of 1996 in this parade, and it's like, wow, how cool! We love it. The two kids see the cat in the hat, and literally are like, Cat in the Hat, yay! And like high five to like reiterate, like, we want to buy this, we love this. You're giving us exactly what we want, and we're gonna take it because we love it. And it's like more of this. And again, it's hard. Like maybe I'm oversimplifying it, because this is a movie that has to do with Christmas. Christmas has to do with gifts. Gifts has to do with sales and capitalism and consumerism. So like avoiding that narrative would be near impossible.
Well, and I think too, like, so like furthering your point about that, like, so the young boy gets the doll, right? And then he goes and he puts himself in mortal danger for this toy, right?
Yes.
Because capitalism and the idea of having things and of having so many things and having the perfect thing and the thing that you want and the thing that's special is like more important than life. Like he's willing to like go to extreme lengths in order to protect what he has, even though he didn't necessarily earn it. He was just fortunate enough to receive it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, granted, a lot of it just kind of coincides and works with this very slapstick, cartoonish adventure story where it's like, of course, there's going to be a big battle at the end. The fact that it's Sinbad, I'm also like, why? But at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, they're just fighting over this consumer good. And this is the idea of like arguing over that good and ownership of something regardless. And so seeing it not even just as like a hero versus a villain, it's just two pawns in a system fighting over this thing that is so inconsequential to them that they're willing to risk their lives for it, which is the disease of capitalism.
Yeah.
Which
really
is wild. I can't believe this. I can't believe this fucking movie. What in the world is happening? I also like, because there is a level of like, the dad is so violent. He's so like, he is constantly like threatening people to get his way. He's physically moving people and pushing people and running into people to get the thing that he wants, a la the Super Bowl in the mall, to the point where he's like literally assaulting children to get the thing that he wants. You go through all of this, and then you get the line where Phil Hartman says, you can't bench press your way out of this one. Like, nothing you like, the thing that you do to get the thing that you want will not work here, which is sort of commenting on masculinity or violence as a regular characteristic of like the patriarchal structure that benefits masculinity in our society, right? Like violence coincides with that. They go hand in hand. So in this moment, like, because you've used your privilege in these ways and the expected privilege of your perceived gender, you can't do that anymore. I don't know. I felt like it was just like acknowledging that, but also coming from the character of Phil Hartman, who is like an absolute sleazeball and also an abuser. It's kind of like, oh, well, what does that mean? Which then, could you argue that that's a commentary on all men in general? Like even the guy who is critiquing the patriarchal violence is still this abusive, manipulative person. Is still
he's
bad.
Participating in a different kind of violence
yes.
where women are the targets.
Yes. So it's kind of critiquing all of them and saying, no, you're all shit. You're all bad. Like, you're all bad, and it's because of this thing.
Yeah.
Because there's the only actively good people in this are Liz and the son.
Okay, but Liz has like 2 lines, and most of the time she's on screen, she's like trying to like get away from creepy guy or yelling at her husband. She's not written as a real character in this. Okay, like if we want to go and talk about the women in this movie, like we can fucking talk about the women in this movie.
Let's go. I'm so into it.
Because the mom just only exists to be fought over by men, and you know, she'll be won by the alpha. Also, like, okay, what the fuck is up with the putting the star on the tree? Like, why is that? Like, we watched another movie recently, and it's like, oh, my husband, my boyfriend, whoever, like, puts the star on the tree. It's really special. It's like that's the equivalent of like fucking your wife, of cheating on somebody. That's how it's treated. Like, so Ted like comes up and he's like, oh, look, I put this on the tree, right? And then like that's the moment when Arnold gets the most angry. He's just like, fuck, and then like I think we watched like the Santa Claus or something. It was a bad choice, but like he like there's a moment where it's like, oh, I gotta put the star on the tree. It's like you don't do any of the other work. You just put the like the fucking thing on top to claim it, right? So more about capitalism.
It's literally staking a flag in colonizing territory on a mountain. I own this flag.
Yeah. But like, so mom exists to be fought over by the dads and to be as like a prize to be won, right? And then then the other women like that are in the movie or talked about in the movie, because there's not fucking many. So Sinbad's wife cheated on him, so we know that. Arnold chokes a woman in line for something, right? So there's that. Then when Arnold assaults the toddler, women come at him with a bunch of like purses, right?
Oh my god!
And like those are the only women that we really see in the movie. And the way that, like, going back to patriarchy and everything, the way that women are viewed in this is as something to be discarded. Like, so there's this line that like perfectly objectifies women and like shows how far this movie goes with it. But like the creepy dad's son is talking to the son, and they're like, he's like, my dad isn't here, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I wish my dad was like yours. And he's like, my dad sucked until they got a divorce. My parents got a divorce. Your parents should get a divorce. And it's like, your dad will be nice to you once they get a divorce. And like the kid doesn't realize that he's just being used as a tool for his dad to sleep with all of the neighborhood women, you know?
Well, there's also the
just
level,
divorce your mom. So there's like no allegiance there, right? Oh, just your parents should get divorced, and then your dad will be nice to you.
Well, also just that, like, it's not even necessarily divorce. It's like get the woman out of the picture, and everything
total
will be
erasure,
good.
exactly.
Yeah, erase her.
He doesn't
and
realize
you'll be great.
that. Like, by divorce, it means just not just like divorce, but get her out of the picture. And that's like the only time they really talk about it. And I'm like, damn, that's so true, because like there's no women in this movie.
Yeah,
no women.
And so to me, that's the only thing about it. Because like earlier I was saying like all of these things, but it's not including any of the sort of misogynistic aspects of it, because there is that whole level to this movie as well. Because the women aren't in it. When they're in it, they're not real. Really, like, and then there's that idea that like, yeah, actively get rid of women, like, how fun.
Yeah, isn't this cool? Don't we love this?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so shitty because like I mentioned earlier, when like the kid is trying to like reach out to his dad, and then he gets like shunned, right? Like, and this can also feed into your beautiful capitalist narrative, which I love. The child is not getting any of his emotional needs met by his father, so he has to go to a fictional character to get guidance and to get to feel connected to something and someone emotionally, right? Even though he has no interaction with this character, right? It's like he's more his dad than his dad, right? And
100%.
So in that way, it works to like frame this child's perspective on what a dad should be, or what he like, you know, and what he needs, and like also like creates like brand loyalty, right? So of course he wants all the fucking Turbo Man things, because capitalism knows that daddy is busy participating in capitalism, so they have to create a stand-in dad for the children to subscribe to. And it's just, that's where he has to go. He has to, like, I mean, and I super relate to that. Like, my family was not great growing up. So, like, I played so many video games, and I watched so much TV. And, like, to this day, like, you know, there's nothing like, you know, sitting down and playing, like, Final Fantasy 7 or 8. And it's like a big, giant warm blanket, you know?
Yeah.
And like I cared and would cry about like things that would happen or like get really fucking pissed about like things that would happen in game or on TV. And I would feel those more real than I felt anything for my family, because that was always just like frustration and anger and heartache. So it served in the same way, I guess, like media currently is serving, right, as kind of a distraction from everything that's going on. But like as a kid, like that was like also kind of what developed, like what I consumed developed my moral compass and like my train of thought and ability to empathize and feel. And like, so it's just so telling that capitalism is what is creating that. And it's also creating that in this world, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's creating it, reiterating it, and perpetuating it at every turn. I mean, that's the foundation. The foundation of this movie is talking about why this thing is bad. And no matter which way it goes, this kid is kind of not fucked, but like kind of, you know what I mean?
He's kind of lost.
Like, yeah. He's lost regardless of whether or not he gets the toy. I mean, I guess the whole point of it is being present and spending time. Time is more valuable than money. In the end, I guess that's
just lost to capitalism. Aren't we all just lost in the sea that is
capitalism is a disease, and I'm sick. But it's true. No, I mean, Jess, I really did not expect this from this at all. I did not expect any of the, like, on my end at least. I was coming into this with a lot of notes, but not a lot of substance. I really didn't have a lot to say. I cannot believe that this is happening. But you're totally like the whole the sort of body double narrative of an object or a hero, a superhero. I mean, oftentimes, like you said, is a stand-in for that sort of emotional, I guess, tangibility. It creates that barrier for you, or creates the comfort for you that you may not get from, say, an absent parent or what have you. And in this movie, I mean, that's the whole crux of it. Which I also I like that the kid is just like, I don't care. Like when he's in his room and he's like, he's like, you missed my yellow belt. He's like, yeah, but I was there for your blue belt. He's like, and you weren't there for the one before that or the one before that. Like, yeah, he's not, because in this moment, Arnold is really trying to sell to his own son the narrative that he doesn't miss that much. He's trying to sell it to him. He's performing this for him in this small window of time that he's barely spending with his son. He's trying to gaslight him into believing that he's been there the whole time, and being like, well, I was there, and the one I was there for was the most important one. And the kid's just like, no, it wasn't. The son is doing what, what is her name? 50 Shades of Grey. What is that actor's name?
Oh, I never saw it. I have no idea.
When she was on the Ellen show, and Ellen's like, you didn't invite me to your birthday party. She's like, actually, Ellen, that's not true. You were invited. And she's like, no, I wasn't. She's like, actually, you were. Ask your producer. Ask anybody. You were. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't know you liked me. She's like, I like you. I didn't think you liked me. And like, this is, I don't know if you've seen it. It's really great.
I have not seen that. No.
It's before Ellen was called out as being like a general piece of shit. Like just this last year. It was before that. And this person just on the show is being like, what you're saying is actually incorrect and not true, and trying to paint me like the bad guy. I invited you. You didn't come, and you're spinning this narrative on live TV. So what would you like to do with this? And it's just so, it's so sweet. Anyways, turns out where she was at a baseball game with George W. Bush. Howdy. Woo! That's why she didn't go to her birthday party. We love. So fun.
Gross.
Super gross. Sorry about that tangent, but I like that the kid is so unrelenting. Because, I mean, he's feeling his feelings. He's allowing himself to feel like, yeah, you're not there for me. I feel like shit because of that. I feel like you don't care about me and that you don't love me. And that's fine. And the dad's actively trying to make him believe that that's not true. And he's like, no, you're lying to me. I know you're lying to me. That's fine. Please leave. Sort of a thing. Right? And not so many words. And the kid, I mean, apart from the ending when the dad realizes like, oh, I just need to spend time with my son. He never lets up on that feeling. He's never like, oh, everything's okay, everything's fine. He's very just like, yeah, my dad kind of sucks. And you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. It's not like they're not re-spinning it or making the kid be like, oh, you know what? My dad just works hard so he can support us. Like some silly, stupid narrative like that, just to like make it seem like anything that the dad does is okay. Like this movie is very just, yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, definitely. Other than the kid, there's like no good characters in this movie.
No.
Nobody's good. Even like Sinbad, like he starts off calling out like these toy czars and like advertising, and then like starts like calling out the government on racism and shit like that. And I'm like, fuck yes, I'm here for this. And so like I was like, I mean, I knew it was gonna happen, but I was really like disappointed. I was like, of course you're gonna make him the bad guy. Of course, like this just sucks. Like, because then they're like also devaluing everything that he was saying too. And like they just like overtly had to like make him a bad guy, and he had a bomb, and he like, you know, he's the big baddie, and it was a little bit weird.
No, there is a level of like making the villain a black person is arguably visibly destructive. Like it is a problem.
Especially when he's like calling out racism and shit like that. And so like but that also works in the capitalist narrative of like, of course he's like sacrificed, and like, yeah, he sees this, but you know what? Like, fuck him. Like it was still just disappointing.
Agreed. In the same way. And I'm not arguing that this is a perfect movie at all. Even though it's close. No, it's not. I'm not going to do that because it's not. And there's a lot wrong with it. But you're right. The general, the visibility of him kind of becoming the villain, like structural narrative wise, like narratively, he's kind of being paired as this villain or like leaning that way. But then to become the actual physical villain at the end was kind of like, oh, why are we doing that? Like,
yeah, and it was just because he had like so many good things that he said, and so like, you know, capitalism does work to like bury those narratives and all of that, and so I like all of this much better, like thinking about it from like this like epiphany that you had here on the pod. What up? But like,
oh my gosh.
But like I feel like, I don't know, I just had to recognize that because it was like distasteful. I thought
it was, yeah. I think without the scene of Turbo Man crashing into that black family's home, I would not feel the same about black representation or sort of the narrative structured around blackness in this movie. That with the capitalism tie definitely changes everything how I feel about like him being the villain. But it's like me on this podcast right now being like, fuck capitalism, all this stuff, capitalism is a disease, all that. Meanwhile, I will be purchasing a coffee in a capitalist system tomorrow morning. Like, I will be participating first thing when I wake up. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing all this on, like, consumer goods that were purchased under capitalism. Like as much as we're critiquing it, we also are a part of it, inescapably so. Right. And so with that in mind, you have the Sinbad character who is very aware of the circumstance, not only just as a black person about the racial injustice in America that, again, is supported by white supremacist ideology, but on top of that is sort of espousing the concept of consumer capitalism as an inherent bad and saying, yeah, they're doing all this stuff. Like, they're the way they market is shitty, the way they do this is shitty, like, and you're like, damn, yeah, that's crazy, you're totally right, and like, I'm on board with this. But at the same time, he's saying this in line at a toy store to get the toy in a consumer capitalist, you know what I mean? It's like, it's commenting on the idea of like, as much as you critique it, you still are a part of it, unfortunately, and that is a weird shitty reality. You know? Yeah.
Like you said, it's like, it's inescapable, you know?
It's inescapable.
Like, and
yeah.
Yeah. So like, how do you decapitalize yourself? And like, is it even possible?
Is it possible? Especially now, especially in the society that we live in, current day, present day. Like, is that possible? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, the best we can do is shit like this, I guess, or like actively not support big business. There are things you can do to help stifle big capitalism and big business in that way, but it's still a capitalist system that we live in. I don't know. I feel like I beat this point.
I'm here for this
over and over.
I'm here. Yeah, no, for real. Thinking about this movie as a capitalist movie, Jingle All The Way is a critique on capitalism, and it is canonical. Also, did you know there's a after credit scene, right?
No. What?
Okay, there's an after credit scene where Liz is being proud of Howard, like the mom is being proud of Arnold Schwarzenegger for doing the right thing, telling him he did a good job, right? Which is what she's there for. That's what she exists for. So she's surprised she got it. And then she asks him where her present is, and he looks at the camera and is like, right?
Sequel?
And they were trying for a sequel, yeah, and they didn't get it. Instead, it went to Lawrence the Cable Man. But
Lawrence the Cable Man.
Yeah, so they were trying to set up for a sequel, but also like going off of this capitalist narrative, it doesn't stop and it never will stop. And as soon as you think you're done, you're not done, and you have to go right back out and do it all over again. You know,
boom, boom, boom.
And I think that's like the perfect way to end that.
I also think that. I also just, before we end this, officially, Jingle All The Way said, fuck all cops, and we love to see it. We actively love to see it. Cool. I'm good with this.
I'm good too.
Great. Let's get on to whatever this thing is.
Let's go. It's Christmas time in Smallsville, USA, where Larry finds himself feeling inadequate after feeling like his fatherhood is being challenged by his ex-wife and her new husband, Victor Baxter, who is basically a millionaire. After a garish and poorly planned attempt at a lighting ceremony at his trailer, Larry decides to open his daughter Noelle's letter to Santa to find out what she wants for Christmas so he can prove his daddy dominance once and for all. It turns out she wants a Harrison bear, but oh no, it's the hottest kid's toy on the market this year, and it's sold out everywhere.
Except the reason it's sold out is because rich box daddy Baxter had his henchmen buy every bear within 500 miles to ensure his daddy dominance. Larry tries everything from checking all the toy stores, pretending to be poor, to attempting to steal from the poor, and then attempting to criminalize the poor. We mean it. He's tried everything. Larry finds out Baxter tried to sabotage him. They get locked in a big box and have the heart-to-heart daddy talk, then become best friends. Baxter gives away all the bears to all the kids he stole from and looks like a hero. Now Noelle has 2 dads and a mom. Happy holidays. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And largely, you know what? I'm giving it too much credit. This is one of the worst things. I don't know if this was a movie. And I mean that in the meanest way possible, because there is no conflict for the first hour of this movie. There's no conflict. Zero conflict. So the whole thing is essentially like in the first one, it's very clear. The son does not like the dad, or like feels abandoned by the dad. Like there's a very clear coming to a head. There's conflict. We see it. We know the reason why the hero goes on their journey. We're seeing this. In this one, she likes both.
Within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. And then in this one, we see Noelle, the daughter, likes both dads just fine. But then Larry, the cable guy, is like, that's not good enough for me. And the other dad's like, that's not good enough for me. What does that mean? What are you talking about? Like, there is no conflict. She's fine with this. Like what? Is it because she said like, oh, you're not my biological dad? Well, that's true. You dingus. What are you talking about? Like, what does it even mean? There's no conflict and there's no reason to do any of this. And then oh my God. This is the silliest.
All of my notes are questions.
Yeah.
Like, so are we vilifying part-time workers? Why is he a spy?
Yeah.
It's just all questions, and it's all just, or it's very rudimentary. It's like, I have a whole section that is things that Larry says, which is, that's why some couples don't have pets. For the record, I dumped you, glue my butt, and I pooped my pants. Thanks, Larry.
It's really Larry the Cable Guy talking action figure where you press the belly and he says catchphrase. It's insanely bad. Like, it's
okay.
Just...
But, like, were you confused as to why anybody could see him when he was wearing so much camouflage? Like, it was just, like, that broke the whole movie for me because it was
It really did, because he technically was invisible.
He, like, you should not be able to see him. Like, clearly this is a movie. This is movie magic. Like, okay, fine.
So I do want to get in a little bit because I have, like, a lot of just empty notes because it's not really a movie. And then because it has no opinion, it has no takes. And for an IP, or not an IP, for a movie and a star who largely appeals to a conservative audience, that first 50 minutes, I expected so much more anti-poor rhetoric, so much more anti-gay shit, anti-black shit. Like, I expected all of this because I'm like, oh, well, they're making this movie for people who voted for Trump. Of course it's going to be toxic. But there was literally nothing. And I guess that says more about, I guess that makes more sense because there's literally nothing there. There's nothing. There's no substance. There's nothing. Like, I guess that makes sense. But then we got to some problematic stuff that I want to talk about, which, yeah, great. When Larry goes to the charity event dressed like the houseless person, which is already, like, cool, cosplay poverty, we love, to get the bear that he's going to steal, he sees an old classmate who he dated, and she gives him $20, and he's like, $20? I'm in the wrong business. Which is a fun way to sort of trivialize the concept that poor people are faking it, that poverty is a choice, and that people choose to pretend to be poor to get money from the government. Cool. So here we go. Here's some conservative ideology. We're going to just jump on in. And then, to further it, the kid who then lies about being poor after he gets the bear, he's like, oh, my dad had to steal money to pay for my mom's operation and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know what? I'm feeling kind. This bear I worked so hard for, I'm going to give you this bear. And then the kid's like, sucker, I lied. It's like further indoctrinating. Well, don't be kind to poor people. Because poor people are liars, and they will lie to steal your money because they're faking being hurt or sad or broken. Poor people are liars. Poverty is a business, and poverty is a choice. That is what this is saying. And I'm like, bam, here is that conservatism that we hate. Cool. And then in that same sequence, when the kid runs away, they end up in front of the church that his ex was at, right? And he's trying to take the bear, and the kid starts crying. And then the churchgoers, the big air quotes good people, are like, and by good people, I mean the people that this movie is for, which is conservative white Americans.
Yes.
They come out and they're like, are you assaulting this kid, poor person? What the fuck? You're trying to steal from a decent kid? And the kid's like, yeah, he's stealing from me.
And then they, like, chase him all throughout the entire congregation comes out to fucking chase him throughout the town to what? To beat him up? To I didn't, like, they were clearly going to, like, incite some sort of violence on him. And it's like, wait, you just got out of church, sweetheart. Like,
but what it's also reinstilling as a narrative choice is saying these church people, like, the audience that this movie is appealing to is them. This young, non-white kid who's pretending to be poor will trick you. Do not believe him. And, like, everyone else is white. And so the one, like, non-white character is this young kid who's pretending to be poor to steal from rich white people who, big air quotes, worked hard for their money. And that's all this scene is trying to reinstill is don't believe people of color. Don't believe they're choosing to be poor. That's all this shit is saying. So the movie has literally no takes, and then the one take it does is like this. And I'm like, oh, of course.
And it's also saying, like, you know, yes, on, like, the higher, like, okay, we understand what's happening in the scene, but on the surface, like, they're also validating chasing homeless people away and just automatically vilifying them just for how they look. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, they literally were chasing him, again, through the entire town, and it's the whole fucking congregation, just because he looked poor and he was in front of their church.
Also, we shouldn't believe children.
Yes.
Also, don't believe kids because
Also,
they're
don't
all
do that.
lying. Especially if they're non-white kids, because they're probably lying twice. What a mess.
Since we are already talking about that one woman, I want to talk about the representation of women in this film as well.
Woo!
So all of the women here, again, like there's more women in this film, but they're absolutely worse, and they're there for one line. It's real bad. They're basically there for either men's consumption, whether it's like to provide validation or to like, you know, for them to be objectified, right? Because the first woman that we see, okay, outside of the mom who like, okay, fucking the mom, like supposedly left Larry because she had ambitions, and her ambitions were never talked about because she literally doesn't do anything. She just she married a rich guy and is just like,
those were her ambitions,
the whole time she just says, you did good. This isn't a competition. Like, you know, and then like at the end when like they're like, oh, we're hanging out, we're coming, don't worry. She's like, wait, what happened? And they're like, it's a long story. That's another long story. She doesn't get any, like, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right. And she's like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. Right. She doesn't ask questions or have emotions because even her as a character, like, is not allowed to have those. And it was just like, fucking cool, awesome. And the little girl, like, the whole time, she's just like, no, but I love you, daddy. No, but I love you, stepdaddy. No, I love you both, daddies. Yeah. It's okay, right? That's like basically her whole function is to be there and to also like be cute or whatever, right? Okay, so outside of those two characters, we have the tree saleswoman, who is like just incredibly objectified and is literally there.
Like what you see?
Oh my God.
Was this written by a fucking 12-year-old?
Hard
oh my God.
Yeah, and like the camera is just very male gazy on her, right? And like, and they let like, and you see Larry objectify her 100% and be like, well, you know, right?
I plead the fifth. Shut up, Larry.
Fucking shut up. I hate you.
Shut up, Lawrence.
Lawrence. So like they did that. That was her. And she was just like, oh, like, what do you want? Like, meh. Okay, bye. Right. And then the server, Maggie, who also was there serving to validate Larry, right? When he was like sad, oh, I'm not going to eat it. Like, you know, I'm not hungry. Are you feeling okay? Like, oh, well, you'll be fine. You'll figure this out. Right. Then we had the women DJs that were clapping and cheering on the Santas during the rodeo where he gets his butt glued to the thing.
Naturally.
Right?
We love it.
But like, they were very like, ooh, hey, like, yeah, good job. And then we had the two older women that were twins that I think were supposed to be feminists, right? That like, as soon as Larry came up and was like, hey, and they're like, no, get out of here. You can't have my stuff. You can't have anything. You get out of here. You're bad, right? Yeah. So like, because they recognized him for what he was trying to do, right? Yeah. Like, they were vilified for just being like, no, don't take my shit. I'm not even going to let you try to talk me out of this. Just get the fuck away from me because I don't want you around, right? Yeah. And so they were immediately vilified for that. And then my very, very favorite was that woman from the church, right? The one that you were talking about, where she like gives him $20 or whatever, but she tells him, I hope you're not homeless because I broke up with you, basically, right? So she's doing that, and then he's like, well, that's not how I remember it going. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, but she's blaming herself like us women do, right? For what transpired after she was no longer in this man's life, right? So she's like, oh, you were so distraught, or, you know, like, I caused you to do this. And like, you know, so often, like, you know, a big factor why women stay with abusive people, or anybody stays in abusive relationships or bad relationships, is because they're afraid of what's going to happen to that person after the fact, you know, whether it's inducing self-harm or, you know, like them having no place to go, X, Y, and Z. Like there's it's always like, I don't know what's going to happen to this person and I can't be responsible for that. So she's already like internalizing this and being like, oh no, like this happened because I broke up with you. Oh shit. And like, she doesn't even ask him what happened. She's just like, this is my fault. Fucking cool. Awesome. We're going to normalize that in this movie too.
Yeah. I mean, there's no hope. I don't think there was ever even an ounce of hope for me. Oh, I don't mean to correct you. She did have ambition. It was to marry rich.
I can get behind that.
Which honestly, you go off, go get his money, because fuck him.
Fuck him.
But also,
wait, they were like,
but also
how
take
can
it
we
and
make this guy any more? How can we make sure that he's boring? Oh, we're gonna make him own a box company. How can we make you know that he's like a douchebag? Oh, he's gonna talk on a Bluetooth. Like, I was like,
yeah.
Oh my god, you fucking nailed that. And you know what? I don't give a shit about this movie. I don't.
It's really bad. Oh, and then that joke that is the inclusivity narrative where like, oh, being inclusive is so exhausting, and then the only person in the movie who is inclusive ends up being kind of a villain but not really, and then is arrested for this is the most Trump shit I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, okay, wait, I'm sorry. I did leave out one woman.
Oh.
The fucking badass reporter that exposes the scam that Baxter's Boxes went and bought literally. So they bought every bear within a 500-mile radius just because they wanted to stop him from giving his daughter what she wanted, right? And that's how, okay, cool. Like he's a bad guy. We got it. But he also like deprived literally every fucking child within 500 miles of exactly what they wanted for Christmas, which further vilifies him, right? So then the black woman who's a reporter exposes the scam on live TV, like to the spy guy, the henchman guy. And he's like, oh, well, right? And how is she repaid for doing all of that? By being gaslit, because then they come in with the truck full of the bears and they're like, no, we bought them so we could give them all to you, right? And then that discredits her and her excellent reporting skills. And and so like she probably will lose her job over that. And it's just
take away everything from people of color.
Hate
conservatism. Yeah. It's just okay. I don't want to necessarily blame ourselves. However,
I want to blame Danny.
What did we expect going into a sequel some 17 years later, produced by WWE, starring Larry the Cable Guy? Like, I don't really know what else we could have expected except this narrative. And furthering that point, since you were talking about the representation of women, I do want to talk about the representation of men, and by men I mean one man. And I'm gonna get horny on pod real quick, and I'm real sorry about it. His friend, the actor is Santino Marella, is so hot. Like, it's silly. True, honest to goodness, one of the worst actors I've ever seen in my life in film history, and that's next to Larry the Cable Guy. So what's happening? But my God. Oh my God. And speaking of being gay, I have a theory that this movie was a gay movie and they took out all the gay stuff. And here's why. So going into it, I do believe that Lawrence's best friend, the terrible actor who's extremely hot, I do believe that in a version of this movie, they are a couple. Because there's this whole concept, like, so what kind of piqued it for me is like, he's always there, he's always supportive, he's like, no matter what, it feels more than just a best friend thing. And there's even a moment where it's like, they don't live together by any means, but it is the end of the night. They're sitting very close to each other on the same couch at Larry's house when he gets the call to go to the warehouse for the teddy bear. And he's like, we should go. Like, what? Like, they're together. Like, they were in that home hanging out as a couple. Like, they were coupled. And then at the end, I mean, this is the kind of the inciting thing. And I think all of this is fake. Nothing I'm saying right now is true, but it's fun to, speculate. At the end, the whole thing is like, it's a misunderstanding. She didn't want the whatever bear. You misread the note. She wanted her family to be together, which I was like, stop bad writing. Like, just stop it. That's not, is it? Okay. Like, narrative
That was
plot-wise,
such a fucking stretch. It
was such a stretch.
Oh my god! It was like, how? That's so. I was pissed.
But it works on two levels, because in the movie, the narrative plot device for this misunderstanding is literally bad writing, and writing that narrative device into the plot is bad writing. It's both. We got both. Oh my god! But when they're at the end, the whole thing is like, I just want my family to be together, and now my family is together. Merry Christmas. But she says very specifically, now I have two dads, which sounds very gay.
Mm-hmm.
I like my two dads. Like, that's the gay book for kids. Like, gay dads, two gay dads. And when she says that, she is wearing a necklace. It is a half of a heart, and that heart is a rainbow. Gay. It's gay.
Yes.
It's so gay. Okay.
That would have been such a better movie if they had like just fucking leaned into that. Like, come on.
Because to me,
like,
I mean, it would have worked.
Especially with like some Trumper, like, or some obviously Trump-centric person like Lawrence the Cable Man, right? Like,
yeah,
let's do it. Let's fucking do it.
And I would love it too, because even if they didn't change any of the sort of anti-poor rhetoric or anti-black rhetoric or anti-femme rhetoric, it still would have worked, because there are definitely white conservative gays who are pieces of shit. And that would have worked real well with that. Like, you're going to sell it right off, like, go off. But do I think this is a gay story? Absolutely not. But I would love to speculate. And largely, and I hate this, largely why I think it is just because I think this man is hot, and it's so bad and toxic. And I know, like, there's the only justification for any sort of speculation around that having been, or arguably is, the narrative in any covert way is simply because I think this man is hot. What a fucking mess. What is my brain, Jess? What is my brain? Oh, my brain was so big earlier, and now it's just so small. I just don't know what to do.
I mean, okay,
I've run the gambit.
There's nothing to this movie. So we're like, we literally have to speculate because it is so boring. Like, I feel like they were trying to make this like a message of like co-parenting and all of that, which is like, okay, cool. Like, I'm super down for that. I think we need more people that like, hey, like, you moved on, like, they don't make the mom feel guilty at any point, which is like I was expecting them to do. So I was like, oh, fucking cool. I'm super, super on board for this. But then, like, they're trying to live together, like, you know, and do this. It's not working. Like, okay, it's come to a head. Okay, cool. Now they're like, cool. Do integrated Christmases. Do all of this shit. Like,
yeah,
I'm fucking here for that. But the way that they chose to show this, because it was just bad writing. Like, they also tried to be like, just because I work part-time and you work full-time doesn't mean that you're better than me. And like, the thing that they fucking like come together over is the fact that they both work hard for what they have. Yeah, sure. And so that's also like more of like the poorness to go along with that whole narrative that we were talking about earlier. So like, you know, you have what you deserve, right?
Yes.
Because Larry, he decides that he wants to work part-time so that way he can be there for his kid, and he has his trailer and he's fucking fine with that. Cool. I personally would love to work part-time and be able to live off of that and have a fucking great time. It would be awesome. But then he's like, of course, like the other dad has like this big ass mansion and a bunch of like millions of dollars and stuff like that, and the whole thing. And also, he didn't work for that. Like, he was given to that by his daddy. So,
and
so
that's
that was
he
stupid.
Works full time. Bullshit.
Yeah. So I was
Truly.
like, okay. So like, you're trying to say that, in the same vein of like, you know, trying to vilify poor people and say all of this, you're also trying to say that, you know, you have like where you are in life is what you deserve, because that it's a choice, right?
Poverty's
and I was
a
like,
choice.
But
that's all they're saying. Literally, the thesis statement of this movie has nothing to do with Christmas. It is poverty is a choice. I voted for Trump. That is the thesis statement. That is the crux of this movie. That's all it is. It's so gross. Fuck this. We could have said fuck this movie before we even saw it, but like straight the fuck up. Fuck this movie. And I do want to point out one other fun little like pro-white thing that they toss in there because like why not? The villain is Baxter Box Guy, right? The first time we see the Box Guy headquarters, the villain's lair, if you will, the group of people,
Box Factory.
The Box Factory. The group of people walking out are some of the only people of color we see. It's this Asian person, a black person, and then I think I don't know who the other, but like a diverse group of people walking out of this building. Apart from them, the reporter and the kid who's lying, there are no other people of color in this movie. Except for the judge, the hot judge at the rodeo. So the only representation that we're getting and seeing is literally they're walking out of what we as the viewer are perceiving as the villain's lair, the headquarters of evil. And it's very obvious. It's very clear. And here's the thing that whenever we talk about movies, there's always a level of I feel like we always come to this point where we want, and this has nothing to do with this movie because at this point I'm like, no, this is just the general because fuck this movie. But there's a level of we want people to just think about their actions. Oh, they just didn't even think about this. But because a lot of these ideas are so ingrained in privilege of these particular people, largely cis white male presenting folks, all of that badness is just a part of their ethos. It's a part of who they are. They don't even have to think about these moments. There's not even any sort of wince of existence. And I think in a movie like this, obviously it's I think it's not a I'm not checking my privilege or checking what it means to exist as me. And then that sort of ignorance is bleeding into this creation, this thing that I'm making. I do think that this movie is very intentionally we hate poor people of color. We do. We just hate them. They're bad and they should go away and you shouldn't believe them and don't give them money because they're bad anyways. Jesus Trump, shout out. I go fishing or what? I don't know. Whatever the fuck this movie is, right? What the fuck? That was such a silly ramble. I'm sorry you had to sit here.
I'm sorry that we had to watch this movie.
I'm also sorry we had to watch this movie.
Thanks, Danny.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. Let everybody know next year I want to do Babes in Toyland.
Yes.
Calling it.
Yeah. So in 365 days, call us out. See if we did it.
Call us out. Be like, hey, you said you were going to do this. Thanks.
Yeah, be like, what's actually crazy is now that you are both so well known and celebrated and famous from your super fantastic critical pod. We love your ear, we love your eye, we love your art, we love you. You said this last year, and now that you're big and famous, you're turning your back on us.
How dare
your fans. We as your fans said we want this thing, and you said fuck the fans. That's what they're hearing from us if we don't follow up. So really hold us accountable, please.
We will be on social media at some point soon.
I'll probably be back on Twitter. Probably. Dang. You know what? It's been 5 months. I haven't been on Twitter in 5 months. Shout out to me. Fuck yeah. I love it. Except I'm still on Instagram because I can't quit it. Oh, God. I love Instagram. I'm so addicted.
I know, same.
Oh, God. We love...
Shall we wrap this up?
Yeah. Fuck this movie, man. I'm cool with this. It's the most saltine cracker movie. Just the crispiest, blandest wafer of a fucking plot that I've ever seen.
It's plain oatmeal.
Yeah, it's plain oatmeal. No sugar. Not even regular
no milk, no berries, no nuts, no nothing. No banana. And even a little bit undercooked, so it's and there was a little bit less water than you needed to really, so it's just real bad. It was not mixed well.
It's a bag of oatmeal, like a little individual packet that fell out of somebody's purse. It sat on the sidewalk for 3 weeks. It rained several times throughout that week, so all the sugar ran away, and it's just a single Quaker oat on the ground in the sun, hot baked, terrible, crispy, and tasteless. Fuck this movie. We watched Jingle All The Way and Jingle All The Way 2.
Oh my God, we totally did. And wow. That was a lot of energy, way too much energy after watching or talking about the 2014 sequel. Okay, I don't understand why it was a sequel. Like,
it's a remake, but a sequel.
No, it is a sequel. It's 2. Jingle All The Way 2.
No, I know. They billed it as a sequel, but it's really just a remake.
So the 1994 Jingle All The Way, who was it for?
It was for men who support socialism.
Ooh.
Isn't that crazy? Because it was like, I mean, it's still largely discredited and ignored women. So it was for men, as most things are in this patriarchal society. But it was also for men who were like, socialism? Question mark. Yeah, it was for them. Who did you think it was for?
Men. The end.
Yeah.
Fucking men.
Yeah.
That's it. I have no hot take. I have no like, I don't even want to like think about like, it's for, no, it's just like for like, it is that morning cup of coffee. It is for men.
It's Folgers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When you said hot take, I was going to say spicy suggestion. The best part of waking up is patriarchal society in your cup. I don't know. Fuck, that was bad. I'm sorry, Danny. Please take that off. Actually, leave it in because I love a behind the scenes moment.
Did you like it?
Jess.
Biggest grin on your face right now.
Jess.
So cute.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was very fun. I think Arnold's terrible. Again, anti-capitalist manifesto. We stand. And they said fucking fuck all cops. And I'm like, yeah, fuck all cops. This is amazing. Like, agreed. What a treat. What a delight. Did you like it?
Okay, so I liked it before I watched it. And then after this watch, I was like, oh, right? Like, I was just mostly just bored with, like, I mean, so many of these fucking movies that we watch have to deal with hating women and patriarchy and, all of that. But, like, I mean, it was still entertaining. So, like, yeah, cool. I like it. But, like, after hearing your take, like, it does make me want to go back and watch it. And I do still like it. I might love it. I might love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's close. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
I feel like you could write like a master's thesis paper on the representation of capitalism in this film.
It's crazy. Really, once you open that door and watch it with that lens, it's just like, oh, duh. Oh, duh, that's who that is. Oh, duh, that's what they represent. Oh my God, duh, that's why that scene there. Oh my God, this made no sense the first time watching it. That makes perfect sense. It's wild. It really, like, it felt like I put on 3D glasses and I was just like, whoa. I see it now.
What about the new one? Jingle All The Way 2. Was it new, interesting, or the same? Progressive, regressive? Has the story evolved with today's ideals?
It was new. I'll say that. It was also very interesting. I'll say that. And by very interesting, I mean not interesting at all. And by not interesting at all, I mean not a movie, hardly. It's not. It's hard to even credit. I mean, come on. What even was it? It's hardly a film. It's hardly a movie. It's hardly a story. You know what? Not even cinema in general. It's hardly a story. So for that, I say, okay, so it's not new or interesting. I was JKing. And then so regressive, both in narrative structure and storytelling in general. Also in its conservative values, because that is literally the description of regression and backwards thinking. So shout out. And then to today's ideals, I don't even know, like, to some people that's today's ideals, but I think in general it's like
to small town America,
not even necessarily small town, just to more anti-poor, anti-black, conservative, Republican white people. And you know what? No, I'm going to take white people out, but largely yes. But anti-black, anti-poor, Republican, conservatives. The bread and butter of a comedian like Lawrence the Cable Man. Because if get her done isn't bootstrap rhetoric, I don't know what is.
Okay.
My God.
Like, I am enjoying calling him Lawrence the Cable Man far more than I should.
It actually is very nice. It's fun to say.
I don't think this was new it was super, super boring. Like, half the time, and I remember like being like, okay, cool, this is almost over, right? How the fuck is there still 45 minutes left in this movie?
Jess, I literally thought that 5 minutes in. There is like, I think 20 minutes in, I was like, okay, thank God this movie's only an hour and a half. And it was 20 minutes in and there was still 60 minutes or like 70 minutes left. I was like, no, not possible.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah, no, I don't. Nothing fucking happened. They didn't know what they wanted to say about anything. They didn't like they were like, oh, we're going to be progressive because we're going to accept two daddies and divorce and it's fine. And you're like, what?
Yeah. What is this? What?
Like, is this progressive? Like, how long has divorce ruled like America as like at large, right? Like, how long has that been a big fucking issue? Like, go away.
Truly.
I was so like mad. And then like I feel like a lot of the movie just to like make like parents or like whoever was watching this be like, oh, it was just like a lot of like the little girl like being a little girl and like not even like an actor, but just like being a little girl playing and being kind of like off the wall. And so they played up on that a lot for like to keep you watching. And then it's like, okay, like I don't know. It was super regressive. It has not evolved with today's ideals at all. It tried to. It wanted to pat itself on the back for that. But like, I mean, when you look at everything, like, dude, this movie was bad. Was it even a movie? Like,
but again,
they were also
saying
kind of
it's
like
a
going
movie,
for that.
but
Like,
is it?
They were trying to. So like, I watched some anime. And, like, there's, like, this genre that's, like, where it's just, like, a slice of life, right? And I feel like they were trying to go for the slice of life anime genre, but, like, also not, like, this movie had commitment issues. Like, it didn't know what it wanted.
Yeah.
I can't believe this movie was made.
It's hard for, like, because I know there are some people who are like, that's my favorite Christmas movie. And those people, I want you to listen to me if you're listening to this for whatever reason. If you do, they think like
and you've
no
made
judgment,
it this far.
and you've made it this far. Truly, shout out to you, an absolute legend. However, are you okay? Like, I'm sincerely concerned. Like, if this is something that you think is good or you hold dear, like, again, different strokes and all that. But if this is something that you actively like and think is good, I probably bet you're a piece of shit.
Dang.
Like, not to be like, because I mean, who even knows? And maybe somebody just didn't see the context. And so to that I say, be more critical. But with everything that we've said, even though we are just two people with opinions, hey, shout out us, podcast, free speech and all that.
Are you going to say that that's who this movie was for? Pieces of shit?
Whoa, hearing you say that back, that's actually pretty harsh. But I will say yes. I will go ahead and say yes. That's who this movie was for. Jess, who do you think this movie was for?
It's for people that like bland oatmeal.
More? Yes.
You know what? Like, I can't think of a better, because like, have you ever had just like regular ass oatmeal that's like either way too liquidy or like not liquidy enough? It's like fucking bad, especially if there's like nothing in it and there's no taste and there's like, I mean, it is like unredeemable, right? This is for people who live for that, who like, that's not just a diet or what, it's a lifestyle. It's like CrossFit or
oatmeal is CrossFit. What? Well, I will fully say I am one of those people who does buy the big cylinder oatmeal. I do. Shout out to me. I do buy the big cylinder oatmeal. That is just regular ass oats, no flavoring, no sweetener. However, I am a food artiste and I know how to add a little bit of cinnamon, vanilla, and brown sugar in there to make it taste mwah. But again, I have taste. Sue me.
So, did you like this?
No. It's hard. And again, it's hardly a thing to even like. It's just, no, it was so unironically bad. Did you like it?
Fuck no. This was a bad movie.
This movie's pointless. Oh, quite literally pointless.
I'm done.
I'm done too. This is fun. Jingle All The Way. We love.
Don't watch number 2. Anyways,
watch
write
the first
into
one,
us.
though.
Write into us at NOTstalgiaPodcast@gmail.com. And we want to say a very special thank you to Danny Barkley, who edits our podcast, and a very special fuck you to him as well for reminding us that this movie exists. We love you
to be fair,
so much.
We love you, Danny. And to be fully fair, it's a big fuck you for the second one, but a big thank you for opening our eyes to the anti-capitalist manifesto that is Jingle All The Way.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for really just like, you're really doing your due diligence in the year 2020 in pursuance of socialized justice. You're really doing the work, Danny. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We love and appreciate you. And thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Jess.
And remember, stay cute.
And stay critical.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.